Reproductive justice and healthcare racism with me, I'm Audi.
And I'm Emil, his little brother.
Thank you so much, Thank you so much. Welcome to my podcast on health and social justice. I'm your host, and I'm so happy that my little brother's here to help me. So a little bit about us. We're a family of Afro Latinos. I work in healthcare, and I recently interned at a family planning clinic at RWJUH, Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital. Through that experience, I've seen firsthand how reproductive health isn't just about having access to contraception or abortion care.
Wait, reproductive health? What does that mean? I feel like people don't really talk about this stuff enough.
That's actually exactly why we're doing this podcast, because it's not just about having babies or not having babies. It's about systematic racism. It's about biases in our medical system. And it's about whose voices get heard and whose get silenced.
Okay, so like healthcare is racist?
Not quite. But actually, yeah. And today, I'm bringing you two powerful articles that really show you how deep this goes. Once you hear what these researchers and advocates have to say, you're going to understand why challenging racism in healthcare isn't optional, but urgent.
Alright, I'm ready. Let's do it.
So, let's start with the first article. I'm discussing a piece featuring Linda Villarosa, a journalist who reported for the New York Times Magazine, and Monica Simpson, an executive director of Sister Song, which is literally the country's largest organization dedicated to reproductive justice for women of color. And the numbers that they're talking about are devastating. Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes than white women. Black infants are more than twice as likely to die than white infants.
Wait, more likely now than before? That doesn't make sense. Shouldn't it be getting better?
Right, that's what you think. But here's the wild part. The racial disparity is wider today than it was in 1850. 15 years before slavery ended.
That's crazy. So like slavery ended, but healthcare racism hasn't?
Exactly. It's just changed in different forms. Now you might think, okay, so it's probably about poverty, right? Education levels. And Villarosa and Simpson actually address this head on. They talk about Serena Williams, literally one of the greatest athletes in the world.
Serena Williams, like the tennis player?
I know what a tennis, you not Serena tennis. That's what I mean, Serena Williams. Yeah, she's wealthy, she's educated, she has access to everything, and she still almost died giving birth.
So it's not about money or how smart you are.
No, this isn't about individual circumstances. It's about systematic racism baked into our healthcare. Villarosa introduces two really important concepts. The first is toxic stress. It's not about stress like, oh, I had a bad day. Toxic stress is a cumulative effect of experiencing discrimination in housing, in the workplace, by police, and everyday interactions where you're treated as less intelligent or less trustworthy. That is called a state of vigilance. When you're at a constant state of vigilance, that is where stress is induced.
So that actually affects your body, like physically?
Yes, and here's the thing. That stress has physical impact on your body. Your systems constantly fire up, and if they keep firing up, they break down, kind of like a car. The second concept is weathering. Your body literally ages prematurely from these repeated insults. And all that comes to head during pregnancy and childbirth, which Rosa calls a stress test of a woman's body.
That's heavy. So like just living as a black woman in America is stressful enough to hurt when you're pregnant?
Good question. That's exactly what she's saying, actually. Monica Simpson, the Sister Song director, adds something critical to the topic. Healthcare access is still huge. Medicaid expansion hasn't reached everyone. Abstinence only sex education doesn't give people real information about their bodies. And we need proactive legislation and policy change, not just reactive responses.
All right, so that's all about Black maternal health. What about that second article?
Good question. The second article is by researchers at universities across the country, Earl, Morini, Becker, and others, and it focuses on LGBTQ plus women's reproductive justice.
So, like, LGBTQ plus women have their own healthcare problems as well?
They do, and here's why it matters. LGBTQ plus women face their own set of barriers in healthcare. Providers assume they're heterosexual. They don't ask affirming questions. Healthcare environments aren't designed with LGBTQ plus folks in mind. They're not really the primary target, allegedly.
So, providers are just ignoring that that's part of who they are?
Exactly. The cis heteronormativity of the situation, the belief that cisgender and straight is the default, built right into our healthcare system. But here's what's important. LGBTQ plus women of color face multiple intersecting forms of discrimination at once.
Like racism and homophobia all at the same time?
Yes, racism and homophobia, classism and transphobia. And the research shows that black sexual minority women actually report the more discrimination than white sexual minority women. The article discusses things like contraceptive access, HIV prevention, abortion access, fertility care, and how all these are shaped by healthcare providers who either don't see LGBTQ plus women as real patients or actively discriminate against them.
So it's like even if you're wealthy or educated, if you're LGBTQ plus or a woman of color, healthcare providers still gonna treat you wrong.
Exactly, and that's what connects both these articles.
What do you mean?
Both are talking about the same root of the problem. A healthcare system built on racism and bias that denies people, especially marginalized people, their reproductive autonomy and dignity. Whether you're a black woman experiencing toxic stress and weathering, or an LGBTQ plus woman being erased in healthcare settings, or a trans person of color facing both kinds of discrimination, the system is failing you.
And that's not accidental. You said it's systematic.
Right, it's not accidental. Villarosa says something is clearly deeply embedded in the system. It's baked in. And that's what we're seeing with LGBTQ plus women too. It's not just individual providers being biased, though some are. It's structural racism and, you know, the idea of being cisgendered being ingrained into our healthcare and how it's delivered. So here's what I'm about to ask you to think about. And here's my call to action. We have to challenge the bias and racism in healthcare systems. And I say that not as someone who's studied this, but as someone who's worked in healthcare. I've seen how providers make assumptions. I've seen biased intake forms. I've seen patients, particularly black women, Latina women, LGBTQ plus women, feel invisible or disrespected in spaces that are supposed to help them.
So what can people actually do about it?
Good question. I suggest challenging the bias. Doesn't mean, and that just doesn't mean like for someone else to do it. It means if you work in healthcare, educate yourself. Understand how systematic racism works. Learn about unconscious bias. Ask better questions. Learn about your patients. Especially when they tell you they're being mistreated. If you don't work in healthcare, demand better from the system. Support organizations like Sister Song that are doing this work. Vote for policies that expand healthcare access and protect reproductive rights. Hold your providers accountable.
And if you're young, like me, or you're a student, what can we do?
That's a real question. Start by learning this stuff, which you're doing right now by listening to me speak and listening to other podcasts. Talk to people about it. Don't accept it when you see bias happening. And if you're thinking about healthcare as a career, go in with your eyes open. Me, I want to be a PA. So I've been working in healthcare for the past 2 years. I've taken internships and I've done research projects. This is a topic that's very important to me. So when you talk to people about it, don't accept it when you see bias happening. And if you're thinking about continuing this process, know that the system is broken. But also that you can be a provider who actually listens and respects their patients. And most importantly, believe the stories of Black women, of LGBTQ plus women, of all marginalized women when they tell you that their healthcare experiences are traumatic, because they are. And that's not because of individual circumstances, it's because we're living in systems that were never designed to take care of them.
That's real, bro. Thanks for breaking this down for me.
Thank you for asking the right questions. That's what gets people to actually think about this stuff. So keep learning, stay engaged, and let's push this healthcare system to be better. This is Amaudis
and Emil.
and we'll see you next time. Appreciate you.